So, been meaning to make this video here for a while now. I got my two Hondas, uh, open frame Hondas, anyways, and just wanting to do some messing around with them, clean the fuel tanks and that kind of stuff. That one needs an oil change and what have you. And I figured no better time than now to talk about this welder here. So this little fart here is actually a welder. It's a Honda EW 171, and they sure didn't seem to make too many of these things. I don't know when they stopped making these. Anybody who's particularly familiar with these things will recognize that like both of these here are the same generation. Like from the same era. But yeah, this little guy here is a crap. Now I forget. Because I repainted the tank, so the sticker's gone from the side of the tank that tells you all the specs on it and everything. But it's a 171 amp DC only welder. And it's a 110 only generator. And I want to say it's 4,000 watts, if I remember right. Which, don't quote me on that or nothing. But it's actually a really kick-ass little thing. I really, really, really love it. I got it used about 10 years ago. Maybe a little bit less than that or something. But bought it used from a guy. I can't remember if he was the original owner or not. But it looked basically brand new when I got it. And then it's been on my service truck for what, 8 years now, something like that, until I got my Trailblazer welder, because I was just saving up to get the Trailblazer. But yeah, you can see it's only 110 generator, which is kind of a pain in the ass, and then it has a selector to go between AC power and weld. And you can actually use AC power when you're in the weld setting, but the voltage or frequency, I actually haven't put a meter on it or anything, is relative to where your amperage selector is. And this one doesn't have a coarse and a fine amperage selector, it's just this one right here. And so if you have this guy in the weld setting and say plug an angle grinder into it, the speed of the angle grinder will actually change, and the overall power of the angle grinder will change with the amperage dial, which is kind of interesting. And then if you select AC power output, then the weld output is totally unregulated. Like it's just, it absolutely maxes out the weld output. And so, you'll forget to switch it over to weld, and you'll have like a, tiny little like 332 6011 or something, and you go to strike an arc with it and you're running it at 170 amps. It's like, holy shit, put a little oil drain extension on it for when it was mounted on my truck. It is really handy that do I have a tape measure? I do. So the sides of a dually service body are 21 inches, like the box width. And if you look at these guys here, they're about 20. So they actually fit very, very well on top of a dually service truck body. But yeah, this one does not have electric start, which is kind of a pain in the ass. Not that it's the end of the world or anything, but with my air compressor on the truck, I've actually got the electric start wired into the pickup battery, so that I don't have to have a separate battery for the air compressor, but also that way when it's running, it will like trickle charge the pickup battery. And so just recoil start. And one time I did have the rope break on me when I was like, just showed up to a job and was gonna crank it up, and fucking rope snaps, and I was like, well, shit, that sucks. But the cool part is when you have like equipment, like it's not all different brands and models and everything. I was able to just steal the recoil starter off of my air compressor and stick it on there and get the job done. But yeah, so this one, Welder, but 110 generator only and about 4,000 watts. It is a 340 cc engine, where this one over here is a 110 220, but no welder. It's a 390 engine. It is electric start, hence the battery on the back side of it. But hopefully you can get an idea here. These things are otherwise basically identical. From the outside, the only difference that I see on them is where you see this open hole is right here in the generator frame. This guy has got what I would assume would be a transformer. Honda actually calls it a reactor, which is kind of funny. But this apparently is what makes it a welder. And oh yeah, so you can see I got some heat tape on the exhaust manifold here. I'm trying to remember now, but doesn't matter. About a year after I got this thing, and the engine or generator, I actually don't know which one it is, but this thing will make a slight ticking sound when you're using it, and it is more prevalent when it is under a heavy load. And what's interesting is it seems to be more prevalent when it is welding rather than generator power. But it's got this slight ticking sound to it, which basically just irritated the crap out of me. I took it down to our local Honda shop around here, and we have a absolutely fantastic local Honda shop. And they were listening to it and everything, and got out the stethoscope and was sticking it all over the place and everything. And they were saying, that most people probably wouldn't even notice it, and just don't worry about it. And if the engine blows up, then just put another engine on it and move on down the road. But it just irritated me, pissed me off, and so I did like a full mechanical overhaul on this thing. And what I mean by that is I had and I got all factory Honda parts from the local Honda dealer, but I got a new piston, bored it out. I think it was like 10 thousandths over or something like that. Had local machine shop polish the cam. They ground down the crank again, I think 10 thousandths smaller for a smaller connecting rod, because these don't have connecting rod bearings on the raw journal anyways. It's just a forged aluminum rod, and so if you want to resurface the rod journal, you actually have to cut it down smaller and then get a brand new connecting rod for it. So I got a new piston, new connecting rod, replaced all the bearings in it. I didn't actually do a camshaft because there was nothing wrong with it that I could tell. Had machine shop regrind the valves, all that kind of stuff. I actually poured and polished the head just because I was there. New generator bearings, new brushes in the generator head. Had local electrical shop test the generator head and polish out the slip rings and all that kind of stuff. And fired it up after that, and it was great. It was dead silent. As these things are loud as shit, but the ticking sound was gone, and worked wonderful and everything. And I think I probably got about 5 hours on it or something like that, and it started ticking again. I was like, what the fuck? And same thing, took it down to the Honda shop and everything, and they were like, honestly, just ignore it. It runs fine and everything. Just leave it alone. Um, and so that was about 9 years ago now, something like that. And I have just left it alone, and haven't had any problems with it or anything. Uh, the of course these don't come with an hour meter, which is stupid, but I added an hour meter on it a little bit after I got it, and it's got about 300 hours on it at the moment. And yeah, works fantastic. Um, Really, and of course, everything is a trade off. Pros and cons to everything. Like, I absolutely freaking love my Trailblazer. It is fantastic. It is quiet. It actually probably burns less fuel than this thing, believe it or not, for a given amperage and what have you, anyways. Um, and yeah, the Trailblazer is wonderful in its own right, but it's packed full of computers. It is a very, very, very complicated machine as far as that stuff goes. This thing here is dead simple as far as a generator and welder can be. It's not like you're just smashing two rocks together or whatever. But as far as a generator and welder goes, it's very simple. And my Trailblazer at about 160 hours, the low pressure fuel pump failed, um, and I only had it a couple months at that point or something, and I was out on a job, had all my leads strung out and all that shit. And I think it was like halfway through weld or something like that. I just heard the Trailblazer cut out, and I was just like, son of a bitch. Um, and so, for as fancy and cool and everything as the Trailblazer is, the first thing that came to mind once I figured out that it was the fuel pump that failed on the Trailblazer was that these here are a gravity feed. Um, they don't have a fuel pump at all. You can see, the fuel tank just sits above the carburetor, and then you have a little petcock, and it just flows down into there. And so there's just like I was saying, pros and cons and trade-offs to everything, and no one thing is best. And it really kind of irritated me when the fuel pump failed on the Trailblazer, and I was thinking, oh yeah, I just bought this fancy ass new Trailblazer, it'll be fucking wonderful, and yada yada yada, and all this shit. And then a part failed on it that this welder here just simply doesn't have. But anyways, I guess enough rambling on about that. So I was gonna say something else, but life's hard when you're retarded like me. So um, I'll get it fired up and run a couple rods with it just to let you listen to it and what have you. One thing that's kind of annoying about these things is that they cannot and will not do AC power and weld at the same time. So you can see I got a little light bulb plugged in down there, and when I strike an arc with it, you'll see that light bulb go out. And that's just a 60 watt light bulb, nothing fancy, nothing crazy. It's not a huge amount of power or anything like that. And so when I had this thing on the truck, it was really rather annoying that you couldn't do two things at once. Like, say, if you wanted to charge cordless batteries, for the angle grinder or something like that, or run a corded angle grinder, you could not do it at the same time as welding with it, because it would actually cut generator power and essentially like prioritize power going to the weld output. And the arc off this thing is the best way I guess I can describe it is very unstable. It's almost like the voltage is dancing up and down or something like that, and it's a rather crude arc, if you will. But that being said, it works, and I've made a lot of money with this thing, and it served me well for many, 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 many years. Now I just keep it as a backup, essentially. Or, the other thing that is really nice about this, it weighs about 250 pounds or so. So, you and your buddy can easily toss it in the back of a pickup and, take it over to a friend's house or whatever. Buddy's broke down out in the woods or something like that. You don't want to take your entire work truck with you and toss this in the back of a Jeep or whatever. But yeah, enough talking. You probably won't be able to hear shit once I fire this thing up because it is extremely loud. Well, it's, you know, it's as loud as one of, you know, just the normal generators is because, you know, it basically is the same thing. But you probably won't be able to hear a damn thing I say. So yeah, I'll fire it up. I got some 1/8 inch 7018 that I'm gonna burn and some 532 7018. It will do 532 7018, but it's all it has. And clean the slag off at the end, and you'll see how it just is kind of a crude weld, but it twerks. Okay, so that was 1/8 inch, and then I got a 532. I'm set at, looks to be about 160 amps. And so hopefully you could hear and tell that, yeah, it's kind of a violent arc, if you will. But it works, and it glues metal together. And, you know, like I said, trade-offs to everything and whatnot. You know, it's loud and annoying and what have you. And hopefully it comes across on video. It actually sounds like the welder itself sounds pretty terrible when you're welding with it. You know, it almost sounds like there's a bearing coming apart or something like that. There's not too many videos online on YouTube or whatever of these welders, period, let alone these things welding. The few that I have been able to find, they all actually sound identical to this one, or to my ear identical anyways. But yeah, so you know, you can see even just with the light bulb plugged in that when I was in the weld setting and you turn the amperage dial up and down, the intensity of the light bulb gets brighter and dimmer. And I guess since we're on the back of my truck here, I will swap bleeds to the Trailblazer, and I got another stick of 1/8 inch 7018, and we can compare the two. So which really isn't a fair comparison, but fuck it, we're here. So I got my Trailblazer just out of frame up here. I'll set it to 125 amps on the 7018 setting, almost all the way soft on the arc control. I think I'm -20 on the arc control, and yeah. The plate is pretty hot. It's only, it doesn't even really qualify as plate. It's only like 1/4 inch. But yeah, so this one here was 1/8 inch. Oh, what the fuck. Need to figure out how to edit videos. This here was 1/8 inch with the Honda, and this here with 1/8 inch with the Trailblazer. And you know, it's really no comparison in how smooth and clean the Trailblazer is, and how much quieter and everything it is too. But you know, of course, they're two different welders for really two very different purposes. You know, the Trailblazer is amazing. I love it. It's hard to imagine how I got through life without it. But you know, it's almost 500 pounds, and you know, they don't exactly give them away. They're pretty expensive, and you know, has got more computing power than the lunar lander. This little guy, or even that generator, you could take that generator and plug a, you know, shop welder into it or something. They're cheaper by comparison. I mean, they're still Hondas, but cheaper by comparison, far more portable, and way simpler. No computers in either one of these things. So everything's a trade-off and what have you. If anybody has any questions or would like to see me do something specific with that, as far as like a test or demonstration or something or whatever, feel free to let me know. I'd be happy to oblige. And I guess if anybody finds any videos of these Honda welders online, if they could leave a link in the description or link in the comment section, because like I was saying, I haven't been able to find too many videos on those, and I'm just curious to see more videos on them.